There's nothing in the world that can compare with a hamburger, juicy and rare. A hamburger lives for the pleasure it gives. It's a thrill.
Wimpy, he's probably cartoondom's greatest schnorrer, and for those who don't know what a schnorrer is, Groucho Marx refers to it in Animal Crackers in the song Captain Spaulding. And a schnorrer is a freeloader in Yiddish.
He's a lovable kind of con man. He's a mooch. He's an addict for hamburgers. People like that character because a lot of us are addicted to eating certain foods. When you think of the 30s and 40s in the area where maybe it was born, or the 20s even, the hamburger was even more of a national symbol in a way than it is now because there's so many other things around. In the old days, it was a cup of joe and a burger and a hot dog. Those are the American foods.
I'd gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
He was a shady dude. He would sell Popeye out in a second. I know he would. He would con anybody. It didn't matter if they were good or bad or his friend or not his friend. I knew from the cartoons every time he said, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. Even as a kid, I knew there was no way Popeye was going to get paid back on Tuesday from this guy.
Wimpy is almost an exact opposite of Popeye. Wimpy doesn't care about anyone else but himself.
In the comic strips, there was a much darker side to the character. And at any particular moment, he could have come down on the other side of that very fine line.
In the early days, he was friends with the sea hag. You know, he had some funny storylines where, you know, he did visit the dark side for a while.
I found that appealing. That was intriguing. It was just different from any kind of sidekick or supporting character. You wouldn't find Jimmy Olsen or Robin doing anything like that.
Beg pardon, sir. Do you by chance have any mustard?
I felt that Fleischers, though, weren't always quite sure what to do with him because, as per Seagar, if they wanted a boxing referee, Wimpy did the job. He did it in the strip, he did it in the movies, and as such became an MC whenever they needed one in the Fleischer films, like in the dance contest, for example. But other times, he might actually have a job which he'd never have with Seaguy. He's the plumber and plumbing is a pipe, albeit one who doesn't really work very much. And he'd be a general-purpose man who'd look surprised as a cop in Choose Your Weapons. Wimpy is a policeman. So I felt that while Wimpy got his due when he was doing the hamburger bunching and the like, he became perhaps too much of a general-purpose man for Fleischers, whom I don't think had thought him through.
Whenever he does show up in the Fleischer cartoons, Popeye tends to save him. A perfect example of this is in Popeye Meets Sinbad, where Popeye saves Wimpy from drowning when their ship capsizes. Not only is he saving Olive, but he's towing Wimpy along with him, except Wimpy is so distracted by putting mustard on a hamburger that he doesn't even seem to notice.
Oh, the search is temporarily discontinued.
There's something about Wimpy that is always very charming, isn't it? Americans won't know this, but before the craze for fast food, there was a chain of restaurants in Britain called the Wimpy Bars, which were named after the Wimpy, and they sold, obviously, hamburgers. It showed that there was an impact of that character in Britain beyond anything that happened in America.
He's a likable guy in some odd way because he seems so foolish. But basically, he would sell his grandmother for $1 to buy a hamburger.
Wimpy probably has a genius IQ under there somewhere. It's hard to say, really. It's hard to really say what Wimpy's thinking most of the time.
From my experience in life, the greatest manipulators and liars are those with the higher IQs. So I would not argue with him on that point.
There's nothing in the world that's so divine as a hamburger, tender and fine. I adore you, hamburger mine.